Namaste, Jai Bharat. I was wondering last few days that what shall be the real meaning of democracy? Is democracy has a selective meaning, or does it have some kind of universality? Now, this doubt comes because suddenly people, those who claim to be democratic nations, and very boisterously indeed, do not behave uh, like democrats, as at least I understand democracy. I did not know there are two sources of democracy in the entire world. One, the Europeans begin it with the Greek democracy, which is direct democracy, and two, the democracy in Bharat, which is lesser known to the Europeans. We knew it already, which is Ganrajya. We had Sabhas, etc. You know that if you can look up and find out the kind of democracy which existed in Bharat. Sabha, when we had kings also. So, is it that democracy and the direct democracy where the Greek democracy has a lot of flaws, though that's the first kind of democracy in the European world where the slaves and women were not allowed to vote. So they made such discriminations. But in Bharat, never existed such discriminations. In fact, in Bharat, there never existed any discrimination of any kind. I'm talking about the Vedic period, not about the post-Islamic influence world. We never had such distinctions. And the women were more than equal to men. That's again a deviation from the mainstream of our talk. So this doubt comes to me whether something is like a selective democracy goes on in the Western world from the statement President Trump makes publicly right behind a mic, asking the American companies like Google, Microsoft, etc., not to hire Indians. In capital letters, I would like to repeat it, not to hire Indians in their companies. He didn't say that not to outsource. He didn't say not to employ non-Americans or foreigners, but he specifically said not to hire Indians. Fine. What shall one understand from this? From a democratic point of view, it's an absolutely undemocratic statement from him, because then President Trump treats democracy as something exclusive to America. Well, nationalism is something that we all appreciate, especially in Bharat. We appreciate nationalism because we like to be nationalist at every step. We go by the mantra Rashtraya Swaha. There's no harm in it, but nationalism at the cost of others is not different from Hitler's attitude towards the world, that Hitler explicitly says in his Mein Kampf that I would snatch from the neighbor's property and feed to my people. Well, this is precisely what Mahabali has done that made him an Asura. That's a different story. Mahabali, I would give his ancestry. Mahabali's father was Purojana, his father was Prahlada, and his father was Hiranyakashipu. Now you know his lineage. Hiranyakashipu was an Asura, Prahlada was not an Asura, Purojana was not an Asura, and Mahabali is again an Asura because of this attitude. He would go to the extent of snatching from others and giving it to his own people, but in a more milder manner than what Hitler has stated in his autobiography, which is named as Mein Kampf, My Struggle, whatever. Interestingly, this is, I would not call it as democracy. And President Trump explicitly says that do not hire Indians. Now, what may be the reasons, suddenly grew afraid of the Indian minds. Of course, you can't help it. Indian minds are Indian minds which has a ancestry, which has a history, which has a tradition, which is based on a knowledge tradition, the Veda Upanishadic knowledge tradition. You don't have all those things in the America, but America. And then I would simply question the history of America, which is only short periods of history. I'm not trying to belittle, but then one is forced to speak of such things in so-called self-defense, that you avoid Indians. So that simply means that you're not afraid of. You're afraid of the emerging intellectual power, and of course, economic. That he understands better economic power of this nation, Bharat, and the people of you can't people of Bharat, of course. But these are such kind of things one should understand is not going to affect anything. It's not going to affect anything. US is not the center of the world. Previously, the same people in Europe thought that the cosmos, as they understand, they thought it's a tomb on which the roof where stars are fitted like studs, and the center is Earth. That is geocentric theory. Earth is in the center of the cosmos. Cosmos, of course, I don't know how to what extent they understand, at least solar system. Even that they did not know then. Earth is in the center, and man is the most precious creation on earth. Semitic theology, specially created by God in his own image. That makes him really special, man. So man becomes the center of everything. Similarly, America is following the similar lines that they try to show themselves as the center of phenomenal world, which really is not the case. They have the history of geocentrism, and from geocentrism and erasing anthropocentrism, and this, of course, now America wants to thinks that they are center of everything. So they would like the other worlds to obey them and behave according to the whims and fancies, which are mostly irrational. Or if you look at the history of the activities of America, even a lot of irrationalities in it, whether it is the wars with others or actions within, etc. They are not a structured society of culture and history. These things are open. I am not going to repeat those things. So, but such statement makes him very anti-democratic, and such statement makes the US very anti-democratic. Anti-democracy, as I understand democracy, because my understanding of democracy is not from the Greek direct democracy of Athenian existence or such states of city-states of the Greeks. My understanding of democracy is from my tradition, my history, and my kind of kingdoms which we had. Remember, we had kingdoms plenty in Bharat, and we had languages plenty in Bharat, but they coexisted with one soul in ancient Bharat, which rather goes beyond the understanding of peripheral understanding people or periphery understanding people. These things are deeper. So when we speak of nation soul, of course, Sri Aurobindo spoke of nation soul. When we speak of nation soul, that nation soul is a reality with Bharat, with all this kind of multiplicity and plurality. Of course, the coexistence of multiplicity and plurality is the Vedavanishadic epistemology of everything. So this multiple and plural coexists with the nation soul, as Sri Aurobindo spoke extensively about, is a phenomenon which is lesser understood by people, because you just can't understand Bharat like understanding a light song. Its understanding is something near akin to understanding a classical song or classical concert, and there's differences you should understand. So you just don't try to read us. So anyway, this kind of statement makes one self-stultifying. You defeat yourself by saying that. A company, first of all, it's not always centered in the America. A company, meaningful company, should have branches all over, and in spite of the fact somebody of saying them not to hire a particular national people just because they are more efficient and quick learners. But a lot of things, I don't know how to explain. People should understand, and those who understand it do understand. I need not to say. So this such is an unfortunate statement that really makes him non-democratic. I am not telling anti-democratic, but non-democratic. As I understand democracy, you may have a different understanding of democracy, in which you may fit in logically, but I don't know. This is something which is funny. Ultimately, it boils down to saying that something which is funny. We shall meet again. Namaste. Jai Bharat. Jai Sri Ram.